Welcome to Movie Bites. Today, we're taking it back to the gritty streets of Watts to revisit the 1993 classic Menace II Society. This film pulled no punches, delivering a raw and unfiltered look at life in the inner city, leaving a lasting impact on audiences and hip-hop culture alike. We'll dive into the real names and ages of the unforgettable characters like Caine, O-Dog, Sharif, Chonny, and Ronnie, and see how the actors behind them have evolved since their time in the spotlight. Ronnie, played by Jada Pinkett, is one of the most heartfelt and grounded characters in Menace II Society, 1993. The film doesn't hold back in showing the harsh realities of life in South Central Los Angeles. And in the middle of all that chaos, Ronnie stands out. She's not caught up in the streets. She's building something better. She's a loving mother, a loyal friend, and a source of hope for Caine, the film's main character. She sees something in him, something bigger than the life he's surrounded by. And with her warmth and wisdom, she gives him a rare gift, a glimpse of a future that's safe, stable, and full of possibility. Jada Pinkett was just 21 when she stepped into Ronnie's shoes, but she brought a depth to the role that felt far beyond her years. She made Ronnie real, a woman who stayed soft in a world that tried to harden her, who held on to hope even when everything around her felt hopeless. Her scenes with Caine, especially the quiet, intimate ones, are some of the most unforgettable moments in the film. Now 53, Jada has built a career packed with iconic roles, from Set It Off and The Nutty Professor to the Matrix series. She's also left her mark on TV, especially with Red Table Talk, where her honesty and wisdom continue to inspire people everywhere. But through it all, she's never lost what made her so special as Ronnie, the ability to bring heart, depth, and truth to every role she takes on. And for so many fans, Ronnie will always be a favorite, a reminder that even in the toughest places, love, strength, and hope can still shine through. Caine is the heart of Menace II Society, whether he wants to be or not. Played by a 22-year-old Tyrin Turner, he's the one caught between two worlds, the one who knows he should get out, but can't seem to make the move. From the start, you can tell he's not like O-Dog. He's not reckless, he's not out here looking for trouble. But trouble has a way of finding him anyway. What makes Caine such a memorable character is that he's real. He's been through it all, losing his parents, growing up in violence, learning the rules of the streets before he even had a chance to be a kid. But he's not hardened the way O-Dog is. There's still something in him that wants more, even if he doesn't know how to get it. That's why Ronnie sees hope in him. That's why his grandparents beg him to change. But the streets don't let go that easily. And every time it looks like Caine might finally break free, something drags him back in. Tyrin Turner gave Caine a depth that made you feel for him. He wasn't just some tough guy trying to survive. He was a kid trying to figure out if survival was even worth it. And when the film reaches its tragic end, it hits hard because you knew he had a shot. He just ran out of time. After Menace II Society, Tyrin didn't blow up the way some of his co-stars did, but he never stopped working. He showed up in movies like Belly and did plenty of TV, but for a lot of people, he is Caine. Now 52, he's still in the game, doing stand-up, acting, and making sure people never forget just how much of an impact he made with that one unforgettable role. O-Dog is the kind of character you don't forget. Played by a 20-year-old Larenz Tate, he was that wild card in Menace II Society, the one who didn't just survive in the streets, but thrived in the chaos. From the moment he steps on screen, you know exactly who he is. He's reckless, unpredictable, and dangerous, but the scariest thing about him? He doesn't seem to feel fear, not in the way most people do. The thing about O-Dog is that he's not just some mindless thug. He's young, too young to be that deep in the game. But he's already seen and done too much to care about consequences. When he guns down the clerk in the liquor store, there's no hesitation, no second thought. And when he brags about it later, replaying the tape like it's a highlight reel, you realize that for him, this isn't just survival, it's a game. But underneath all that, you have to wonder, was he always like this, or did the streets turn him into what he became? Larenz Tate brought something real to O-Dog, something that made him more than just the crazy best friend. He had that charisma, that energy that made you almost like him, even when you knew he was dangerous. He wasn't just a villain, he was a product of his environment, a kid who never got the chance to be anything else. And that's what makes him so terrifying. After Menace II Society, Larenz Tate kept proving he was more than just one role. He showed a whole different side in Love Jones, gave us the grit in Dead Presidents, and later became a powerhouse on TV in Power. Now 48, he's still got that same intensity that made O-Dog unforgettable. Tat Lawson isn't on screen for long in Menace II Society, but in just one scene, he tells you everything you need to know about the world Caine was born into. Played by a 44-year-old Samuel L. Jackson, Tat is Caine's father, but he's no role model. He's the kind of man who moves through life with no hesitation, no second thoughts, just action. And when he shoots a man at the dinner table over what seems like nothing, you realize this isn't just a violent moment. It's a lesson, a message. This is how things are. This is how you survive. The scariest part, Tat doesn't flinch. He doesn't rage. He barely reacts at all. He just turns to his friend and tells him to clean up the mess like it's another Tuesday. And for him it is. Caine was just a kid when he saw it, but that moment shaped him, whether he wanted it to or not. Samuel L. Jackson plays Tat with the kind of presence only he can bring. He doesn't have to do much to command the scene. He just exists in it, completely natural, completely in control. It's the kind of performance that sticks with you because it feels real. Like you've met a man like Tat before. Like you know exactly what he's capable of, even in the quiet moments. Of course, Samuel L. Jackson didn't stay in the background for long. After Menace II Society, he became one of the biggest actors in the world. Pulp Fiction, A Time to Kill, Jackie Brown, The Hateful Eight, and of course, Nick Fury in Marvel. Now 76, he's still everywhere, still delivering those unforgettable performances. And even though Tat Lawson was just a small role, it was one of those moments that reminded you, Samuel L. Jackson has always had that kind of impact. Sharif Butler stands out in Menace II Society because he's the one trying to do better, even when everything around him is falling apart. Played by a 21-year-old Vontae Sweet, Sharif has found faith and a different path than his friends, especially Caine. He's not trying to survive the streets. He's trying to escape them, offering hope even when it feels impossible. But in the world they live in, doing the right thing doesn't guarantee anything. Sharif's story hits hard because it's a reminder that change is possible, but not always enough. He wasn't always the calm, faith-driven guy we see. His dad, Mr. Butler, tells us Sharif had a wild side once, but he found something else, a way to break the cycle. Tragically, the streets didn't let him go. His death is a painful moment that proves how even the most well-meaning people can be taken too soon. Vontae Sweet's performance brings so much heart to Sharif. He didn't need to be the loudest or toughest in the room. He just made you believe that Sharif was trying, truly trying, to be different. And when Sharif's life is cut short, it stings, because you knew he had so much more to give. Before Menace, Vontae was already in Boys in the Hood, 1991, just a year earlier. Now 54, he's still doing his thing in entertainment, and for many, he'll always be Sharif. Grandpapa, played by 71-year-old Arnold Johnson, may not have had the most screen time in Menace II Society, but his presence was undeniably powerful. He's Caine's grandfather, a man who's lived through a lot and carries his faith and wisdom with him. Grandpapa's not just trying to keep Caine in check, he genuinely wants him to get out of the streets and build a better life. He knows how hard the world can be, but he believes Caine can still make a different choice. What really sticks with you about Grandpapa is his tough love. When Caine doesn't listen to his advice, Grandpapa doesn't hesitate. As a religious man, he's not going to tolerate disrespect or disobedience, even from his own grandson. Sending Caine away isn't easy, but Grandpapa knows it's necessary. He can't protect Caine if Caine won't help himself. It's a tough moment, but one that shows how deeply Grandpapa cares. Arnold Johnson brought something special to the role. He wasn't flashy or dramatic. He was grounded, real, and you could feel the weight of his character's experiences. Grandpapa was the kind of person you'd want in your corner, offering wisdom even when it's hard to hear. Though Arnold Johnson's time on screen was short, his portrayal of Grandpapa left a lasting impact. He passed away in 2000 at the age of 78. But his role in Menace II Society will always remind us of the power of love, faith, and the hard truths that sometimes come with them. Mr. Butler, played by 41-year-old Charles S. Dutton, might not have had a huge amount of screen time in Menace II Society, but his impact is unforgettable. As a schoolteacher and a militant father figure, Mr. Butler knew all too well what the streets of Watts could do to young men. He tried everything to guide Caine, even going so far as to suggest he join his son, Sharif, and head to Atlanta, offering Caine a way out of the chaos that seemed to swallow everyone around him. But the thing about Caine is you can see he's already made up his mind. No matter how much Mr. Butler pushes, Caine looks like he's trapped, stuck in the life he knows. Mr. Butler doesn't give up, though. He's got that tough love, telling Caine the cold truth with lines like, "Being a black man in America isn't easy. The hunt is on, and you're the prey. All I'm saying is, survive." Mr. Butler's not offering false hope. He's offering survival, even if Caine isn't sure how to take it. Charles S. Dutton brought a real weight to Mr. Butler. He wasn't there to be liked or coddle Caine. He was there to wake him up to the truth. And while Caine might not have listened in the moment, Dutton's performance made you feel the gravity of that exchange. Now 74, Charles S. Dutton is best known for his roles in Rock and the Piano Lesson, and he's won plenty of awards over the years. But for many, Mr. Butler will always be the character who tried to show that even in the hardest of times, someone still cared enough to fight for a better future. The detective in Menace II Society, played by Bill Duke, doesn't need to raise his voice to make you nervous. From the moment he steps into the interrogation room, his presence is undeniable. He's calm, calculating, almost too casual. But beneath that smooth tone, you can feel the weight of what he's saying. He's not just asking questions, he's breaking Caine down, piece by piece, pushing him to confront the truth he's been running from. That famous moment, "You know you done f***ed up, right?" has become one of the most quoted lines in the film. It's the way Duke delivers it, slowly, methodically, watching as Caine's confidence starts to crumble. The detective doesn't need to threaten him outright. He knows the power of making someone sit with their own guilt. Bill Duke was the perfect choice for this role. With his towering frame and signature intensity, he brought something different to the detective archetype. Less force, more mind games. It made the scene unforgettable, turning a simple police interrogation into one of the film's most iconic moments. Of course, Bill Duke's career stretches far beyond Menace II Society. A Hollywood veteran, he's been in everything from Predator and Commando to directing films and TV shows. His deep voice and commanding presence have made him a legend. But for a lot of fans, that one line in Menace II Society is enough to cement his status as one of the coldest, most unforgettable detectives ever put on screen. Pernell, played by 31-year-old Glenn Plummer in Menace II Society, is one of the film's most complex and tragic figures. He was more than just a familiar face in Caine's life. He was Ronnie's husband and Caine's mentor since he was a kid. But the problem was, he mentored Caine in all the wrong ways. He wasn't just a big homie looking out for him. He was the one who showed him how to survive in the streets, how to move, how to be feared. And now, from behind bars, he realizes the damage he's done. Pernell sees Caine heading down the same road that landed him in prison, and it's eating at him. He knows the game doesn't love anybody, and for the first time he's trying to steer Caine in a different direction. He trusts Ronnie to guide him, and he asks Caine to step up for her and her son. It's more than just a favor. It's his way of trying to make things right, even if it's too late for him. Glenn Plummer brings a quiet, weary weight to Pernell. He's not angry, he's not preaching. He's just a man who finally understands the cost of the life he once embraced. And even though he's locked up, his influence lingers, making you wonder what Caine's life could have been if he had a different kind of mentor. Now 63, Glenn Plummer has built a long and steady career, from South Central and Speed to The Day After Tomorrow. But for many fans, he'll always be Pernell, the man who taught Caine the game, then spent the rest of his life trying to undo it. Anthony, played by 4-year-old Julian Roy Doster in Menace II Society, may be small, but his presence carries a lot of weight. He's more than just Ronnie's son. He's a reminder of what could be, of a future that doesn't have to end in violence. He's still innocent, untouched by the streets, but you can't help but wonder how long that will last. Caine clearly cares about Anthony. You see it in the way he interacts with him, in the small moments where he softens. Maybe he sees himself in the boy, a kid growing up without a father, surrounded by things no child should have to face. Maybe that's why Ronnie's plan to move to Atlanta means so much. It's not just about giving herself a better life. It's about making sure Anthony never has to live the one Caine did. Even though Anthony doesn't say much, he makes an impact. He's a symbol of hope, of change. And in the final moments of the film, when he calls out for Caine, it's devastating. Because now, just like Caine once was, he's another child left behind in a world that doesn't make it easy to survive. Julian Roy Doster was only 4 back then, and now he's 35. He didn't go on to have a big Hollywood career, but his role in Menace II Society is unforgettable. Because in a movie about cycles, Anthony is the one who makes you stop and ask, will this one finally be broken? Chauncey, played by 36-year-old Clifton Powell in Menace II Society, is that one dude in every crew who's more trouble than he's worth. He's not the wildest guy in the room like O-Dog, but he's the type who's always scheming, always looking for an angle. He steals cars, stirs up drama, and has no shame about trying to get with Ronnie, even though it's clear she's not interested. At first, Chauncey is just an annoyance, the kind of guy you roll your eyes at and keep at arm's length. But when he gets disrespected, his petty side turns dangerous. After Caine roughs him up for getting too comfortable with Ronnie, Chauncey doesn't take it on the chin. He takes it to the next level. Instead of handling it like a man, he tries to get back at Caine and O-Dog the only way he can, by sending the liquor store tape to the cops. In the streets, that's the ultimate betrayal. And in a world where loyalty is everything, Chauncey proves he can't be trusted. Clifton Powell plays him perfectly, cocky, messy, and always in the mix, but not built for the consequences that come with it. Now 68, Powell has made a name for himself in Hollywood, with roles in Dead Presidents, Next Friday, and countless TV shows. But for a lot of fans, he'll always be Chauncey, the dude who let his ego turn him into a snitch. Tat Lawson, played by 35-year-old Condy Alexander in Menace II Society, was the kind of mother no child should have to grow up with. Strung out and checked out, she was never really there for Caine, not in the way a mother should be. Her addiction ruled her life, leaving Caine to fend for himself in a home that was more of a war zone than a safe haven. For a kid, having a mother lost to drugs isn't just painful, it's confusing. Karen wasn't violent like Caine's father, but in a way she was just as damaging. There were no bedtime stories, no words of encouragement, no real love, just absence. And when she overdosed, she didn't just lose her life. Caine lost any last hope of a childhood. Condy Alexander didn't have much screen time, but her performance made an impact. She made Karen feel real, because she was real. So many kids in neighborhoods like Caine's grew up with mothers like her, trapped in addiction, ghosts of who they used to be. Now 67, Condy Alexander has built an incredible career, known for powerful roles in The Corner, CSI Miami, and Treem. But for those who remember Menace II Society, she'll always be Tat Lawson, the mother who was gone long before she died. A-Wax, played by 26-year-old MC Ite in Menace II Society, is one of those characters who's in too deep to think twice about his actions. A member of O-Dog's crew, A-Wax has that tough, volatile vibe. He's always down for whatever, whether it's a carjacking or shooting someone over a perceived disrespect. His loyalty to his crew runs deep, but there's a danger in that. One that makes him just as unpredictable as the streets he's embedded in. A-Wax's character doesn't just talk about the gang life, he lives it, fully, without hesitation. His aggression is almost like a defense mechanism, a way to survive in a world that shows no mercy. But underneath that hard exterior, there's a glimpse of humanity. When Caine gets shot, A-Wax's reaction is one of real concern. For a moment, you see that he's not just a machine of violence. He's still a person, affected by the pain of his friends. MC Ite brought A-Wax to life in a way that made him memorable, not just as the tough guy, but as someone who, like everyone else, is shaped by the harsh realities of his environment. Now 57, MC Ite has gone on to have a successful career in music, cementing his place as a legend in West Coast hip-hop. But in Menace II Society, A-Wax remains one of those characters who shows that sometimes the toughest people are also the most vulnerable. Toshi Toda, 50 years old when he portrayed the Korean store owner in Menace II Society, brings a subtle yet powerful presence to a scene that speaks volumes about the immigrant experience in tough neighborhoods. His character is just trying to run his small convenience store in Watts, but when Caine and O-Dog walk in, everything shifts. A simple purchase quickly escalates when O-Dog's temper flares after a racially charged comment, turning the store into a battleground. In that one moment, Toshi's character represents the struggle of immigrant shopkeepers trying to survive in an environment where mistrust and violence are always just below the surface. Though he doesn't have much screen time, Toshi Toda's role leaves a lasting impact. His character, calm amid the storm, shows how deeply personal the struggles of people in neighborhoods like Watts can be. The store owner is caught between trying to carve out a better life and dealing with the cultural misunderstandings and racial tensions that plague his community. It's a small moment in the film, but it cuts deep, reflecting the bigger issues of inequality and survival. Now 81, Toshi Toda has built a diverse career, appearing in films like Don't Be a Menace and Just Married. While his role in Menace II Society was brief, it remains an important part of the film's commentary on race, class, and the struggles of immigrant communities in America. Jun Kyoto-Lu, 61, at the time of Menace II Society, played the Korean woman in the store during one of the film's most intense moments. Though her character doesn't say much, her presence speaks volumes. You get the sense that she and her husband have been running that small store for years, dealing with the daily grind, the tension, the uncertainty. When O-Dog and Caine walk in, she watches with wary eyes, perhaps out of habit, perhaps out of fear. And when things take a turn for the worst, she's right there in the chaos, caught between survival and helplessness. Her role is brief, but it adds to the scene's rawness. She's a reminder that, in places like Watts, everyone is just trying to get by, whether they're from the streets or behind the counter. Now 91, Jun Kyoto-Lu has had a long and varied career, appearing in films like Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, Bloodwork, 2002, and Lady in the Water, 2006. While her role in Menace II Society was small, it remains an important piece of the film's larger message about race, survival, and the tensions that shape communities like Watts. Erin LaShawn Wiley was just 19 when she played Alina in Menace II Society, and even though her screen time was short, her role left a lasting mark. Alina wasn't part of the street life. She was just a young woman trying to get by, caught up in something bigger than herself. When she tells Caine she's pregnant, she's not trying to trap him or ruin his life. She just wants him to take responsibility, to be there. But instead of stepping up, Caine pushes her aside, like so many young men in his world do when faced with something real. Her story is one that's all too familiar. Women left to raise children on their own, while the fathers either disappear or meet tragic ends. And when Alina's cousin confronts Caine, it turns into another violent episode, showing how even the most personal struggles can spiral into something deadly in their world. Now 50, Erin LaShawn Wiley may not have become a household name, but her role in Menace II Society felt real. She played Alina with a quiet strength, a reminder of the women who are often left picking up the pieces. Her character wasn't just a plot point, she was a reflection of a reality that still exists today. Todd Anthony Shaw, better known as Too Short, played Lew-Loc, one of Caine and O-Dog's homeboys in Menace II Society. He wasn't the loudest or the most reckless, but he was always around, moving through the streets with a confidence that made you think maybe he was built different. While others were caught up in the cycle of violence, Lew-Loc seemed like the kind of guy who understood the game well enough to avoid being another statistic. Unlike O-Dog, who thrived on chaos, or Caine, who was trapped between wanting out and staying in, Lew-Loc just played his role. He had a presence, but he never let his emotions take over. He wasn't looking to prove himself. He already knew who he was. In a world where so many young men got swallowed up by their choices, Lew-Loc was the one who made it through. Too Short fit the role perfectly because he came from that world. His music was already telling these stories long before he stepped onto the Menace II Society set. He didn't have to act tough because he'd already lived through what the film was showing. And maybe that's why Lew-Loc's survival feels right. He was never supposed to be the one that burned out. Now, at 58, Too Short is still here, still standing, still thriving. Just like Lew-Loc, he knew how to move, how to last. And in the end, that's what survival is all about. Cousin Harold, played by Reggie Gibson, better known as Safir, was one of those characters in Menace II Society who felt like he could have been someone you actually knew. He wasn't the typical trying to escape the streets character like Caine. Harold was deep in it, fully immersed in the life. At just 23, Safir brought a real grounded energy to the role, showing Harold as someone who had the flash, money, a nice car, a confident swagger, but still couldn't outrun the harshness of the world he lived in. The moment Harold meets his fate in the gas station scene is one of the most gut-punching in the film. He's just there, living his life, thinking he's untouchable, but in the blink of an eye, it's over. His death was sudden, violent, and served as a brutal reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in that world. Harold wasn't a bad guy, but in that life, even the ones who think they've made it aren't safe. Safir's impact went far beyond just this role. He was more than an actor. He was a respected rapper, producer, and member of the Golden State Project alongside Raz Kass and Exhibit. He had other acting roles too, in films like Sweet Potato Pie, 2004, and Da Crib, 2004, but music was where he really made his mark. Sadly, Safir passed away in 2024 at the age of 54. His role as Harold might have been brief, but it was memorable, and his legacy, both in music and film, lives on. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane with Menace II Society. If you enjoyed this look at the iconic cast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more classic movie deep dives. Which actor's journey surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, this has been Movie Bites, where we bring the past to life, one frame at a time. See you soon.